After doing a few streams with HamRadio Dude on 3D modeling, I thought I should add a few videos to my channel about how to do some simple basic 3D modeling for yourself in Fusion 360. That's because it's a really simple application to start with. It's something that's free and that mostly everybody can learn. So what I'm going to start with today is the humble antenna winder. This is something that there are tons of designs out there already. So to start up, you need Autodesk Fusion 360 for makers. This will be pretty much the same in SolidWorks and Onshape and a lot of other CAD programs, but today we're going to go with Fusion 360. You can get this from free. Just Google Autodesk Fusion 360 for personal use. To use it, you have to register, then you can download it, and just make sure you get the personal use one, and you're really nicely off to do whatever you want. If you haven't seen Fusion 360 before, this is what it looks like. In here, I just have a sample file. This is Ham Radio Dude's excellent antenna winder. Highly recommend getting that as well off Thingiverse if you want to try. And this is a rather simple CAD model. We're not going to make exactly this one, but we're going to start with the basics. The basic building block of any 3D model in Fusion 360 or SolidWorks or any of the other similar CAD programs is a sketch. A sketch is a drawing on a 2D plane. So up here, you can see create a sketch, and you can see there's also some helpful text below it. Same comes if you hover over any of the other ones. So click create a sketch, and you can see here, now you see the three planes we operate with. It's the front plane, it's the right plane, and it's the top plane. You can also see them if you expand over here. You have XY, XZ, and YZ. And these are more easily named top, front, and right. But these are the XY and Z planes. You can also see X and Z up here with Y going behind the cube. Today, we want to work in the top plane, which is the XY plane. So you simply hover over it so you can see that is gray, and you click it. So let's start off with something really simple. Let's create a circle and extrude that to some height. Extrusion is the act of making something solid. So click create the diameter circle up here. You can also click the hotkey C on your keyboard. And if you then hover over the origin here, you can see there's a blue outline of it. That means that it will be snapped to that origin point. This will happen the same way on all other kinds of points. I'll show you that later. So click that and then just draw it out. And you can see here, you get dimensions. Mine are in metric as I'm working in metric, but you would get imperial if you're working with inches or feet or whatever else you prefer. So in this one, we would like to have it 50 millimeters, which is roughly 2 inches. So just press 50 and click enter. You can of course also change this after. So if I wanted this to be 60 instead, you just double click it and change that dimension to 60 and press enter again, and it will resize it. So since this sketch is now finished, we click finish sketch. And now we have a sketch here. So to move around it, you could either click these plane names up here to see it top, then you'll see it from the top. You get arrows for each side. So if you want to see it side on, you click here, but that's just a line. You can also move around by clicking down your mouse wheel. That brings up this rotational orb. And if you then just move your mouse around, you can see that your model, or in this case, the drawing, will move around with you. So let's just put it back roughly here. To get a nice isometric view, which means at a good angle, you can just click the corners up here and it will move it to a 45-degree angle on. Now we want to extrude this, meaning that we'll want to give this thickness. So click extrude up here. And as you can see here, we can either fill in the dimensions, or you can take this arrow and you can drag it up. That is not a very accurate way to do it. But you can do it to like roughly position your model. So roughly 35 millimeters, and I'll refine that to exactly 35 millimeters. And then press OK over here or enter. And now we have a round object. And that's a really simple model. Let's go back and delete everything that we've done. If you see down here in the bottom corner, you'll see two things. First, the sketch that we just made, and then the extrusions. You can go back by dragging this black cursor here back, and that will drag you to an earlier point in history. Sometimes you need to change something, and that makes it a lot easier. Or you can click this feature, and you can then press delete on your keyboard, or right click and delete, which will then delete the feature. You still have your sketch, but that sketch is now hidden. So if you expand up here in the tree, which this is called, you can see we have a sketch here and it's not visible. So just click the eye here so it's fully gray, and then it's visible again. So you can keep working on it. Or in this case, we want to delete it, so we just press delete. Let's move on to something a bit more advanced. Let's make a rough outline of the antenna winder we want to have. Today, we're going to go with the simplest procedure for this, which is basically freehanding the drawing. So in this case, I've started a new sketch here on the top plane, and we are going to work on this. I'm going to make one symmetric. That means that all of the four quadrants, this one, this one, this one, and this one, are equals, meaning that we only have to draw this once. And that will save you a lot of work time when it comes to drawing. And it will also make it a lot easier to adjust it afterwards. You could also mirror it only once so that each half of the model is equal, basically the same thing. So let's start here up with a line. Going to start this sketch by making two construction lines. These are the ones we're going to mirror the model about. Just go up here to line and click the origin point and move straight up and double click. This will end the line where you started it. You can then go in here and you can press sketch dimension up here, or D on your keyboard, and then just select this and draw it to the side. For now, let's just set this at, say, 40 millimeters. Then we take another line, either by clicking up here or by clicking L on your keyboard. And I do highly recommend that you learn these shortcuts because they make your workday so much easier. This one, I would like to have roughly 75 millimeters. So I'll just drag it out here and say 75, like so, and press enter. That way I get the dimension immediately. Then we can click this one, and then you can see up here, you have something called line type. Construction is what we want. And just click that one, and then go over to the other one and click construction on that as well. There we have a really simple layout with two mirroring lines. So to make this really basic to start with, let's start with something that's halfway up here, because an antenna winder is frequently more narrow towards the middle. So take this one, just drag it to roughly to the middle of your line, and you can see there's a small triangle appearing. That is it snapping to the middle of this line. And if you then change the size of the line, it will follow that. So take here, just drag it out and say 50 millimeters out to the side. Then take another line, and now we would like to have that up, maybe up there, and we would like to have that in 125 degrees. These are just rough estimates. Then we would like another line, which is going over here, and you can see this is right over the 75 millimeter. And when I drag it here, you can see that there's a small blue stitched line that goes directly down to the 75 millimeter one, which means that you're directly above it. So just click here, and then we can go down slightly, say down 15 millimeters. So you see when you added this dimension here, that stops you from making another line. So I have to go in here and click line again. So let's go directly in slightly, say 10 millimeters in. And let's then go directly down here. As you can see, these lines here, now these are blue. That means that they are not fully locked, which means that when I drag this model around, this will change. A fully defined sketch is completely black, and that means that you are in full control of all the dimensions. And that is something you should have with all of your sketches, at least for a production drawing. So let's make this one fully defined. Go to the end of this line and you will see there's a small dot here. We would like to drag this sideways until you get a blue square around the end point of the construction line. And when I drop it here, you can see a lot more becomes black. That means that this one can no longer move like that. So what's left now? We have this one. This is not locked, so it's not going up and down. Uh, but this one is, and this one is also free. So to make this simple, we would like this line and this line to be collinear. Collinear means that they're on the same line. The simplest way of doing that is clicking the collinear up here, and then you can click the first line and the second line, and that will drop them so that they are lined up. And then to exit this mode, you just click escape. Then you won't try to affect any other lines. If you would like to delete any of these sketch relations, simply click it and press the delete key on your keyboard, and they will disappear again. Another way to apply the constraints you have on top here is to pre-select the elements you want to apply them to. Click the first line, hold down Control and click the second one, just as you would with a file in the File Explorer, and then click collinear up here. And that will apply the collinear constraint between them. Now we would like to add a fillet. A fillet is simply a radius, something that rounds off a corner. So click this button up here and click this corner, and you can see there's a small red outline here that will give you a fillet. And if you click it, you can see it suggests 5 millimeters, which is a default, at least in metric. You can change that for whatever you like. For this one, maybe 15 millimeter would be nice, and you'll get a preview. For this next one, it's interesting because for some reason you're not allowed to pick this corner. There could be many reasons for that. So to make it simple, you can click this line and then this line, and you can see you get the same selection up here. And this is just completely up to how you like it. Either you click the corners or you click the lines. It doesn't matter, you get the same result. So you can go in here, click 15 millimeters on that as well. You can see we have a nicely rounded edge here. And this gives us a warning. It removed a dimension. Not a big thing here, but it's always nice that it's gonna tell us that it did something. So that warning is of no consequence here. Basically, it just removed a constraint that was there already. If there was something wrong, the sketch would glow yellow and tell you where it was wrong. So in that case, you will have to do some troubleshooting on what happened. Then we would like to go over to this area here. And if you remember, I added these dimensions here while making the lines, that dimension and that dimension. That's an issue because we are going to remove this point and we're going to remove this point. So we would like to delete these ones and re-add them. So just select it, click here, click sketch dimension, and click this line to this line. And that is the dimension we would like to keep, not the one which is the point to the point, because we are going to remove the point. Same here, delete this dimension, click here, and then place this wherever you want, and then you have your dimension. If we continue doing it like this, you would get some really unpredictable results. These fillets would behave really strangely. I'll show you a short example of that. So go up here to the fillet, click this one, and click this one, and set that to 5 millimeters, and click enter. And you can see here now, something still happened wrong. We lost one of our dimension, and this is rather typical. And the reason for that is down here. You can see both of these ones. They completely removed the line that was between them. So in this case, we will have to either select this point up to here, which is completely okay as well, Or we will have to undo, and we should, for example, add maybe either 1 millimeter here, or we make the fillets smaller. One of two. In this case, I'm gonna make this one 4 millimeters here. And you can see our model is still nice and black. So at this point, we don't have a full model yet, but we have something that's a quarter model. So to make this into a full model, we need to close this line. This is not closed today because we have two of these edges that are stitched, and the rest is just a line. And we wanted this to be mirrored around the axis. Mirroring is rather simple. Basically, you drag your mouse over it and select everything, and then you click mirror, and then you can see it selected 37 objects. Select your mirror line, which is where you mirror across. So either this one, or any of the other lines if you wanted to do that. Click there, and you can see there's a preview down here. Click OK, and then we're going to do the same once more. Select everything, click mirror, select the mirror line, which is here now, and then we have a complete dog bone structure here. And if you now wanted to change any of the dimensions, then you can just go in here and you can say, for example, this one, maybe we want that to be 20 millimeters instead, and do that. And it looks like this. Maybe want this to be maybe 20 millimeters as well. And then you got that. You can go in and change radiuses. Maybe you want this to be 10 millimeters now. You can do whatever you want with it, and it will reflect on all of the other edges as well. That's the beauty of a mirrored sketch. You only do the changes once. To finish this sketch, just click finish up here, and you can see here it's complaining that they want you to save the model. Just click save, and let's call this antenna winder video. Now, we would like to extrude this, and that's the same process as earlier. Click extrude, and you can see it already selects this one. If it didn't select it and it looked like this, you can simply click in here, and then you can go in here and say, I would like this to be 5 millimeters, for example, and then press enter or OK. So this is a very simple and basic antenna winder. There's not much going on in this one. It doesn't have any fancy holes. It doesn't have any mounting points. That's the next thing we should do. So now we would like to have some holes in here, something you can get rope into and so on. So to do that, click create sketch. We would like to do this in the top plane again. You could also do it on the top of the model. Doesn't really matter. Just the difference is which way you extrude. So just do it on the top plane for now. So you can see we're back into the sketch view and the old sketch is gone. The only thing you see is the body. If you would like to hide the body, you can click here and it will disappear. You can also show the old sketch if you would like that. And just click here and it will show the old sketch or whichever other sketch you have there. A typical combination of that is that you actually hide the body and you show the sketch, and then you can use these ones as geometry to construct off. So one typical use for that is that you would like to include the construction geometry from the other one, or to use dimensions of the old sketch. So to do that, simply mark what you would like to include in your new sketch. Click this one and this one, go up to create, and then do project include, and then just click project here, and then click OK. And now these two, they're purple and they're part of this sketch. So if we hide the old sketch, they are in here and they're already added. They're added as normal lines, so we would like to change those into construction geometry as well. And now we have the same construction geometry as the other one. And these ones will track the original sketch. So if you change the original sketch, these will track it as well. Let's show the old sketch as well. So let's add a hole to this one and make it symmetric. If I click circle up here, you can see I can attach it to this line and this one, or you can do it floating. So let's just create it in here and say a 5 mm hole, something for bungee cord or something like that. And we would like to have that at a specific place. Say we take this and we want it to be off the end here. You can click here and you can then click this dimension here, and we can actually dimension off the other sketch as well. So let's do 15 mm off there, and let's take it from the top here and down, and let's put that at 10 mm. Remember, that is 20 mm. Now this is also black and is fully defined. We can then go in, click mirror this one, and we can mirror it about this one, and then we can do the same. We can click that, and we can mirror it about here as well. Now we have another sketch with some holes in it. Click finish sketch and hide the original sketch, the one which is called sketch 3 here, and let's show the body again. So in here we are going to go and extrude again. Extrusion can be used either for creating a model, or it can be used to cut a hole in one or remove parts of it. So let's just click that one. So now I would like to extrude these holes. And as you can see here, nothing happens when I try to click it because this surface is in the way. This is more visible if I rotate the model, and you can see these ones are on the underside. So just rotate the model around, click this one, this one, this one, and this one, but you still need to add how much you'd like to extrude it. In this case, let's go with 5 mm. Our model is that, and you can see that they change the color to red, which means that they are cut. You can see that here as well. It's the operation here is cut instead of the other one, which was a new body. So for now, we would like to cut here, and we're adding 5 mm. But in case you would like to change this later, either you can oversize it and say we would like maybe 100 mm here, which looks kind of bad and it's not something you really need, or you can go to extend type and say all. Then it will just follow the thickness of whatever is above it. And for a model like this, that is a perfect way to do it. There's a lot of other advanced options to do here as well, but we're going to keep it simple here. So just click OK. And now suddenly we have a part with 4 holes in it. Really nice, isn't it? A very nice function that Morten has in his model is a SO239 connector in the middle here. And you can see here, there's a small slot cut out for it, and it has the holes for screws and the holes for the middle here. This is quite simple to add as well. So we'll do that now before we call it quits for today. If we Google the SO239 connector, this is what you get. And it's a small thing. It's 25.3 mm squared. And this is also a symmetric drawing. This is something that's really nice to have there. Either you will have it on next to you on the monitor, or we can actually add it as background picture inside of Fusion360. This time, let's make the sketch on the top of the model instead. That's because we're going to cut down only partially. So you can rotate it, and you can see we're clicking the top of the surface here instead of the plane, which is further down. So click here, and we can start sketching. Let's go here and insert canvas. There you can go in and click insert from my computer, and you can see here, here's a JPEG file that I saved off that website. Just click it, and click where you would like to place it, which is on the top here. And now this is, firstly, it's upside down. Just click this rotation tool here to rotate it the correct way. It will snap slightly to the points here. So just drag it carefully to -180 and it will snap there. Now that it's correctly placed, you can go over here and you can see you have a new folder called canvases. And in here we have that file, SO239. Right click it and click calibrate. Here you can see there's a dimension to it. And this one is really helpful because we already have a dimension. So let's calibrate this, zoom in so that you have a good measure, and say let's place it between these 2 holes here. Just roughly click it above here to above here, and say that this is 18 mm. That will scale that entire drawing so that it's correct. This is something you can do with your own drawings as well. Just have some sort of measuring tape or something next to it, and make sure you take a photo that's directly perpendicular to it, and you can simply scale it. If we now would like to move this canvas around, just right click it again and click Edit Canvas, and we can move it around like this. In this case, it's not really simple to see where the center of the model is, so you can make the origin visible, and then we can roughly place it on top. This isn't an exact dimension, but it's gonna be close enough for most purposes. And you can see here the origin point is kind of hard to hit, but if I drag it here and say you have the green line in the center up here, and then we drag it down so that the center also goes directly in origin. This is going to be very close to the center of your model and more than good enough for you to draw off. Remember, this is just a background drawing. You're not getting direct dimensions from it. Press enter or OK to save that. Now let's go in and create a sketch. Let's create this on the top of the model. So just click the top surface here, and you can already see this canvas in here. So let's click the center here, and you can see it wants an 15.875. We're 3D printing this, so let's say we're gonna do that 16 instead, just to be safe. Now we're gonna create this hole pattern here. There's quite a few ways to do it. Simplest way I know to make this hole pattern is to go in here, click create rectangle, and then center rectangle. Click here, and then just draw it roughly out there. And we can then enter the dimension 18 millimeters on this end, press tab, and 18 millimeters here as well. And you can see now we have 4 points out here. You can then change these ones over to construction lines, and just select all 4 and click construction over here, or X on your keyboard. And then go in here, create a center circle, and then just add this one. And you can see this is 3.5 millimeters. Uh, make it 4 since we're 3D printing. And you could either then mirror this, but since it's so simple, you can just add 4 more circles. And that lets us practice another constraint, which is the equal constraint. First, you click the first circle here, the one you set the dimension on. Click here, hold down Control, and select the other 3 circles. Then click equal up here. You can see a lot of these others are grayed out. Click equal here, and they then will change size so that they have the same as the first one. It doesn't matter which order you do this in, if you click the one we set dimension on first or not, but it's just a common way of doing it. The last thing we're going to add now is the outer hole, the one that the SO239 is going to fall into. So let's go in here, create another center rectangle there and there, and say that that is 26 by 26. That will give you some leeway on the 3D printer calibration so that you can actually get the part in. Of course, if you have a very nicely finely tuned 3D printer, you can go with exact dimensions, but it's always nice to have some wiggle room. Also, some of these parts are slightly off, at least if you buy the cheap ones off AliExpress. Now, click OK here, and we got to add some fillets. Fillet tool again, this corner here. And you can see here, now we don't have a dimension for the fillet, but you can see it off the drawing. So maybe this is 1 millimeter. Nope. Maybe it is 2 millimeters. 3 millimeters looks rather nice. So click here on the other one as well, and then that one. And you can see we're getting warnings here that constraints are being removed. That's because we're replacing that with fillets. Click enter. Okay. And then we're done with this. We can then hide the canvas. We don't need that anymore, but if we need it, we could bring it back up. Click Finish Sketch, and now we have a nice little sketch here. So the first we would like to do is to drop the holes that go all the way through. Click Extrude here, and select that hole, that hole, that hole, that hole, and that hole. And then you can either write in -5 millimeter, or you can take the blue line and drag it down something like this. We're gonna enter -5 millimeters here. Now you can see the sketch disappeared, and we want that to be back because we want to use it. Go in here, show it again, and you can see it reappears. Extrude again, click in here. Now we would like to get that down and say we want that down -3 millimeters and press enter. Now we can hide that one. We can hide the origin, and you can see in here we would have room for our SO239. So let's just zoom out slightly, and you can see here we have a pretty nice part. It's not perfect though. I like fillets, you know that. And one thing is that you can add fillets to your sketches. But what if we would like to run this corner here? That makes it a lot nicer to handle. It's not as sharp in your hand, and maybe it won't wear down your cables just as much. So here in the solid modeling, we can also add fillets. Up here, click fillet, and you can either click an entire face, and you can see when you hover over the line, it selects everything that's connected because you have tangent chain selected up here. So click this one, and you can see here it prompts you for a diameter. We would like 1 millimeter, and it shows you a preview. Then again, press enter, and we would like to do the same on the bottom, 1 millimeter here as well. You could of course add both of these in the same operation. But if we would like to do it some other way, adding the entire face instead, remember we can go in here and we can either scroll back or we can delete them. So in this case, I can delete this first fillet I added, press delete, and then the other one. Now, let's click fillet again and go in and just click the entire surface and say 1 millimeter. And you can see then our holes are also filleted, same with this one. Then we would like to add another one. Can click add selection set here and select the bottom face here. And that should also be 1 millimeter. Click OK. And now we have a very nice and filleted model ready for 3D printing. And that's the basics of the modeling I'm going to show you today. To get this out to your 3D printer, the simplest way is to go here, expand bodies, right click, and click Save as Mesh. The basic settings here, it wants to export it as STL with millimeter, which most 3D printers want, and you can do that with high refinement, which is more than good enough. Click OK, and then you can select where you want to save it. For example, here it selected the folder that I'm working in right now. Click Save. Now I have a file here on my drive, body2.stl, which is the name of this body. Just double click that, and that just drops it into a 3D printer software. And you can see here, this fits your bed. You can slice and it will print. This is the basics of 3D modeling. The humble little sketch, which defines everything here. And then you just extrude from that, you add to it, you remove from it, you add extra functionality, and then you end up with a part. So as you can see, there's not very much in the design of something like this. The hard part is actually making this into a good model. If we go back and look at Morten's model, this one, this is also not a very complicated model, but he has used a lot of time and iterations on this. It's printed, tested, printed again, tested, adjusted. And that is the iteration path you need to do when you're making this. You print something, you test it, you make modifications, and then you go back and print another one. And then you end up with something that works really well. So I highly recommend that you go in and try one of these. Try playing with some of the more advanced sketch functions as well. For example, the spline up here, which is a Bezier curve, something that curves according to points. Play with that and see if you can get something that's really nicely naturally shaped. Try some of these other constraints here and see what they do. And dig around on YouTube for other instructional videos as well. There's a lot of them out there. Some of them are really, really good. And then whenever you do this, please share what you're making, share it with the world, and make sure that others can also use the small things you do. Something as simple as an antenna winder or a knob for your radio can be really helpful for somebody that just needs that exact part in that day and just downloads it and prints it. I've done that in so many cases where I just found the part on Thingiverse or printables, download it, and it fits. And that is a great experience and a great addition to the ham community. I hope this was interesting. If you have questions, feel free to ask them. Not sure if I can give a lot of engineering design help, but try at least and have fun out there. Play around with the software, learn to use it and learn to use it properly. Get familiar with it. Thank you very much for watching. 7-3.